Hello everybody, welcome back to VeryBadDeckTech. My name is Jared, and today we're going to be cheating at gambling with Mr. House, President and CEO. Mr. House comes to us from the Fallout universes beyond and can be found in the Hail Caesar precon. Like any good capitalist, Mr. House loves exploitation, specifically of dice rolls. His ability allows you to make a 3/3 robot artifact creature token when you roll a 4 or higher on a dice, and if you roll a 6 or higher, you get that and a treasure token. This is cool at face value, but as you may have noticed, the effect specifies or higher. It doesn't care about what kind of dice you're actually rolling, and this deck has 19 cards in it that say roll a d20. So with all that out of the way, let's get into the list. This deck's two main goals are going wide with robot tokens and making a bunch of treasure. To pay off the robot tokens we're going to be making, we have a suite of artifact creature synergies and anthem effects that are going to help us get all of our value. To help out in combat, we have Tempered Steel, which gives artifact creatures +2/+2, Intangible Virtue, which gives our creature tokens +1/+1 in Vigilance, Securitron Squadron, which causes creature tokens to enter with an additional +1/+1 counter, and also Lochiel, Clockwork Scholar, who prevents combat damage to our robots whenever they attack. Lochiel also helps out by drawing a card once per turn when an artifact creature enters, making this one of the stronger creatures in the deck. I also love Steel Overseer and Iron Spider, Stark Upgrade, rare Spider-Man value, which both tap to put +1/+1 counters on each of our artifact creatures. Iron Spider is especially great because immediately after giving the counters, you can pay 2 mana as many times as you want to remove 2 counters and draw a card. For treasure generation, Mr. House is actually great at this on his own, but I've also included ways to make a bunch more treasure, like Zorn, which gives us an extra treasure token every time we make one, Jan Jansen, Chaos Crafter, who can turn our extra robots into more treasure tokens, and Hell to Pay, which is a removal spell if you want it to be, but I like to target a 1 toughness creature on my opponent's board to maximize the excess damage it deals, which can give a crazy spike in treasures. We will be using these treasures not just to cast spells, but also to sync into our commander's activated ability, since every mana we spend from treasure when we activate it lets us roll an additional d6 up to a maximum of 5 from one activation. If you want, you could also double the activated ability with something like Illusionist Bracers, letting you roll up to 10 d6 each time. I've also included Revel in Riches for some more treasure generation, and also to give opponents something to think about since we can technically win the game with it. The bulk of the best cards in this deck cause us to roll dice. Since there are a ton of these and they all have different functions, I won't cover them all, full list at the link in the description, but I will go over some highlights. We have the fun and funny Comet Stellar Pup, the extremely reliable Vexing Puzzle Box, and the so good it feels like cheating Delina Wild Mage. Comet does a bunch of different stuff depending on what you roll when you activate his loyalty ability, including gaining 2 more activations if you roll a 6. This is easier when you have ways to roll additional dice, more on that later, but even if we don't roll a 6, Comet still gives us a way to roll a d6 every turn for no mana, which is always a nice bonus. Vexing Puzzle Box rolls a d20 every time you tap it for mana. It has no additional requirements to get the dice roll, making it one of the most consistent cards in the deck. You can run away with games just off the strength of untapping with this for a couple of turns. It's really like that. You can also get even more value with this card since it can tutor any artifact onto the battlefield once you've rolled enough dice. Delina Wild Mage is absolutely electric in this deck. She is the star of the show and the cause of most of my 15-minute turns. Delina says that when she attacks, you choose a target creature you control and then roll a d20. On a 1 to 14, you create a tapped and attacking copy of the target creature that isn't legendary, and you exile it at the end of combat. But if you roll a 15 to 20, you get to do that and roll again. I have ended up with as many as 6 copies of Mr. House and countless tokens from Delina's ability, and I can tell you that it is by far the most fun you can have gambling in Magic the Gathering. To make sure that we win these gambles, we'll also be putting our thumb on the scales a little bit with Will and Barbarian class. Both of these allow us to roll an additional die and ignore the lowest one, which makes the game plan much more consistent than it was ever meant to be. However, you do need to keep in mind that the ignored roll won't trigger any dice rolling based abilities. You just treat it like it didn't happen. The deck also has 6 cards with burn or drain effects, which are useful for speeding up the pace and can be massive if our wide board isn't enough to break our opponents. These cards all synergize with rolling dice, making artifacts, or having a bunch of tokens, all things that we're great at. We'll also need some additional ways to see cards, and aside from Lochiel and Iron Spider, which I mentioned earlier, I also have several dice roll related draw and impulse draw options. These include Wand of Wonder, Priority Boarding, Chaos Channeler, Treasure Chest, and Strength Testing Hammer. I also recently added Braid's Arisen Nightmare to this deck, which works really well here since we're well set up to benefit from her unique ability by choosing Artifact every time at our end step. Once our opponents don't have any more artifacts to sack, or if they choose not to sack, we'll be able to draw 3 extra cards per turn from just Braids alone. As far as removal and interaction goes, we have a handful of the usual suspects, Farewell, Anguished Unmaking, and Flawless Maneuver, and a bunch more cards that provide utilities like removal, recursion, and even countering spells, while also allowing us to roll dice. We have Thunderwave, Reckless Endeavor, and Contraband Livestock for creature removal, and also cards like Grave Endeavor, Berserker's Frenzy, and Will's Reversal, which all accomplish specific tasks while letting us roll. This deck has a great flow to it when you're piloting, but there are a few things you do want to keep in mind when you're in game. First, the same PSA that I always give, this is a tricolor deck. Please, 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 please mulligan until you have 3 colors. You're going to want to cast Mr. House as soon as you have a way to roll dice, if not directly on turn 3, just to get the treasure creation process going. Getting a substantial treasure engine in your opening hand is also very nice, so I recommend looking for these as well. Aside from that, the core gameplay loop is going to be rolling dice to make treasure, using those treasure to activate Mr. House, and then passively accumulating robots in the background to eventually grind down your opponents. I tend to leave some room for upgrades in all of my decks, so if you want, this deck is really well suited for token multipliers. I actually used to have an Anointed Procession in here, but it was moved to another deck. Aside from that, I think you'd be quite pleased with other heavy hitters like Smothering Tithe, which also used to be in the deck, and makes a ton of treasures with very little effort, and also Black Market Connections, which does everything in the entire game. Alright folks, that's it for today. I appreciate you checking out the video. Like the video if you liked it. You can also subscribe and hit the notification bell for more deck techs like this one. I respond to all my comments, so if you'd like to have a yap session or if you thought the deck was ass and you want to yell at me, we can do it down below. But for now, this has been a Very Bad Deck Tech. I have been Jared, and I will see you all in the next one. Stay safe out there.